Gray was a king. He had won against representatives from countries all over the world. One day alone in a room, he slept as his body felt heavy, but the next thing he saw was a light at the end of the tunnel. Though he didn't know how he didn't have much choice, so he walked toward the light. He heard a couple getting congratulated for giving birth. As his eyes got used to the light, he noticed that he was given birth just now. As the parent talks about him, he start analyzing the situation he was in. Looking around, he wasn't sure where he was. Weeks pass by, but as a baby, he didn't have much control over his situation or himself. In one of the outings, he noticed the world he was born in was an archaic period. His mother Alice thinks he seems tired and thinks about heading home. Months passed and he is still getting used to his new life and the new name, Arthur or Art. Every night after Alice left him to sleep, he sneaked out to learn more about his new world. He learned about 3 nations making up the continent he was born in. Elenwar, the Elven Kingdom, Darv, the Dwarven Kingdom, and Sapin, the Human Kingdom. Though like his last world, this world ran a monarch system. This world's rulership was passed down rather than earned. He reads about the magic and mana, which was similar to Ki of his former world, but unlike Ki, which existed only inside a person, mana existed all around. His mother was a rare type called Deviant with restorative mana. While the mage first awakens in early adolescence or late teens, he found the concept of mana core manifestation similar to Ki Center. As he uses knowledge of the former world to manifest a mana core, but is interrupted by Alice. While looking out the window, Arthur sees Reynold prepping to use magic, but is disappointed when he just flings a few rocks. Ray was a augmenter, so Arthur wonder what will he be when he awakens. Alice tries to take Arthur to sleep as Arthur calls for a book as they are walking past the study room. Arthur begs Alice with a cute face, to which Alice agrees to let him play in the study room with much reluctance. As Alice is looking at Arthur read a book, she hears a crash and leaves to see. Seeing Alice leave, he start to form the mana core again. For the last 2 years, he had slowly moved tiny fragments of mana inside his body to his solar plexus. Naturally, it would take till late teens for it to gather, but with his knowledge of the Ki Center, he manually put mana fragments together to form a mana core. As Alice is looking at Ray holding a broken tree, explosion happens in the house. Ray just to her side and covers for her from the blast. Alice remembers that Arthur was still inside and calls for him. Ray, hearing that, runs into the blown-up house fearing the worst, but when he reaches the former study room, he falls to his knees perplexed to see his son form a mana core while not even being 3. While Ray and Alice are in a state of confusion, Arthur is happy to form and not know the explosion he causes in the process. After rebuilding the house, Alice begins to teach him how to read and write. He learned the basics of mana manipulation and augmentation. Ray slowly began to teach him workouts as he was too young to spar with. Soon after his 3rd birthday, Ray thought it was fine to start practicing and brought him a wooden sword. While studying, Ray calls Arthur to train. Arthur starts swinging his sword, which is parried by Ray. Wanting to go back to study before dinner, he concentrate and slash the branch Ray was using to teach, breaking it. Think it must be over, he asks to go back to study and Ray agrees. The strength of a person is measured by the color of the mana core. It starts with black as it has many impurities but filters out over time, giving red, orange, yellow, silver, and finally white color. Each stair further split into dark, solid, and light. While at dinner, Ray tells Alice that Hay might need to bring a proper mentor. Alice and Ray argue about tutoring Arthur and send him to the city to learn. Ray suddenly asks Arthur if he wants to go to Zyra City and get a real teacher. Arthur is not sure why they would even ask a 4-year-old about this, but answer why they couldn't come to meet the teacher. They just laugh and start preparing for the 3-week travel to the city. Alice takes book off Arthur and tells him to sleep as they would be traveling with their old friends Twin Horns to the Zyra City the next day. Twin Horns had helped them build new houses, so Arthur knew of them. They even had 2 conjurers and 3 augmenters, so they could handle most things during the travel. They start preparing the carriage and start their journey. After traveling and fighting monsters, they sit down around the campfire to eat. While eating, Helen starts talking to Arthur. She talks about how his father was bragging about him. Adam, hearing the talk, asks Ray if he could play around with Arthur. Ray says it is fine, but to be careful as they have just started sparring. Adam picks up Arthur and takes him to an open space. After stretching a bit, both take the stance to fight. Arthur tries to ask for help from Ray, but to no use. He just signs as gets ready to spar. Adam slides back, but Arthur tumbles to the ground. Durden hits Adam as he overdid it and Alice begins healing Arthur. Adam asks what Ray had taught him, but Ray just says he hadn't. Arthur just says he learned that from books and watched his father. After several days of travel, they stopped near a waterfall. During the travel's birthday passes and he was gifted a dagger by Jasmine. Jasmine was one of the twin horns that was able to learn the technique Arthur taught. During their travel, they are ambushed by a gang of bandits. Angela uses a wind barrier while others to get ready to fight. As they notice that they were surrounded, the bandit leader tells them to kill all men and just leave the women. Alice, seeing Arthur ready to fight, hugs him. Even while surrounded by bandits, twin horns are able to fight. They cover each other as they kill the bandits. Though outnumbered, they are somehow able to handle the bandits. Arthur analyzes everyone's fight and thinks if he could go against adults when Ray suddenly smashes to the side of the carriage due to the bandit leader. Arthur tells his mom to heal his dad and feels something is wrong seeing her not being able to do so. Ray tells Arthur after Alice heals him to take her away as he can't protect both of them while fighting. Arthur tries to say he can fight, but his father says he understands, but he needs to protect his mother and the unborn child in her. Arthur promises to protect his mother and gets ready while Alice is healing Ray. Ray informs that the bandits had 4 mages. The bandit leader sees Alice healing and tells his grunts to attack. Healed enough, Arthur pulls his mother while Ray gets ready to fight again. Adam sees someone attacking Alice and Arthur from behind and jumps to defend them. An archer shoots an arrow, but Arthur defends using his wooden sword, breaking it in the process. Helen kills the archer and tells Arthur to keep moving. Arthur feels something is off and counts mages, finding it 1 short. Arthur hears the bandit leader calling for someone and sees one mage readying to hit them with a huge water ball. Arthur knew he could dodge it, but his mom couldn't. Concentrating mana on his legs, he pushes Alice out of the magic range. He knew he couldn't dodge it after pushing his mom out of the way, so at the last second he throws the knife he got from Jasmine with mana string attached to the mage's leg and pulls him as he falls down a cliff. As he opens his eyes, he is surprised as to how he survived the fall. He turns to see that the mage died due to a fall and almost pukes seeing the broken dead body. Feeling weak, he closes his eyes again. After waking up, he sees the food from the dead mage bag and eats it to gain back some energy. After eating, he begins to concentrate on mana in his body and pushes himself to stand up. Not knowing how he survived or how long it has been, he picks up the knife and starts to walk. But he suddenly hears a voice calling him. He was surprised at first but calmed down and asks who she was and if she saved him. The voice say that she did save him and asked him to come to his location. When Arthur asks why he should, the voice said she could get him. After Arthur agrees, she shows him his location and tells him to start moving immediately as it would be safer to move during the day. As he moves, his body heals, leaving a few aches by the afternoon. He reaches the location near sundown. The voice asks him to find her within the crevice. Inside, he meets a creature in black armor. Arthur is frightened, but the armor calms him down and says the portal to home will take time and there were fruits he can eat till then. After he got used to her, he asks for her name, which she replies, Sylvia. He asked her where they were, and why she is there. Sylvia says they were in an area between Beast Meadows and the Forest of Elves Higher. She was wounded by her enemy who wanted something she had in the last battle. She stands up to go to sleep and tells Arthur that his family is safe, to which Arthur thanks her with a smile. As they spend more time waiting for portal to open up, Arthur begins to know more and more about Sylvia. Unlike her appearance, she was a kind, gentle and warm person like his mother. He starts remembering the bandit and hatred starts to grow in his heart. Sylvia flicks his head, saying even if the hatred was valid, he shouldn't let it cloud him. He shouldn't let misfortune corrode his heart and face the future with a smile. The wound on Sylvia grows worse, but she says not to mind it. Sylvia sees that Arthur was very good at using mana. She decides to teach him how to absorb mana while moving or even fighting. It takes some time, but he succeeds. Happy, he turns to Sylvia but sees her down. He notices that the reason the wound was getting worse was because she was using her power to open a portal. Sylvia tries to calm Arthur as he is crying, saying it was fine and he should blame himself. Sylvia removes her armor to show that she was a dragon. She tells him that without armor her enemy would find her quickly. She gives Arthur an egg and her feather. She inserts some kind of power into him. She asked him to call her grandma as a favor, but the ceiling breaks down to show another armor creature. Sylvia stops time. Arthur tried to get her to come through as well, but she says that she can't and pushes him through. As he falls through the portal, all he could do was call her grandma one last time. Sylvia thanks Arthur and turns around with tears in her eyes. Next thing he knew, he was in a jungle, filled with sadness and guilt. All he could do was scream. Suddenly he hears her voice. He thought she might have survived but realized this was her final will. Sylvia says she had left him with her unique will and he would be strong if he uses it. She says she knows how he must be feeling but she wants him to be happy. She said once he reaches which core she will hear more from him and wish him farewell using his past life name. This leaves Arthur with many questions but clears them out and follows her will to move forward. After traversing through the forest using mana he hears a scream. He follows to the scream location and sees some human. As he gets close he finds out that they were slave traders and had just kidnapped a young elf. He follows them waiting for them to let their guard down. While they set camp he kills 2 of them with ease, picking up a dagger from one of them. Hearing noise other 2 come out as well. One of them deflects his surprise attack but gets his legs cut. Another guy who was also a mage finds out he is a mage and tries to capture him to sell as well. Arthur puts up a good fight but the mage is able to kick him down. He grabs him by the leg. Arthur grabs his arms and explodes his mana. While the mage is shocked Arthur kills the mage and turns back to the guy before and kills him as well. He goes to the kidnapped girl and tells her she is safe and can go home with a smile. Thinking she would be fine being an elf in the forest he tries to leave but the elf grabs him saying beasts are scared of adults only and it's still dangerous. He signs and leaves her to go back to camp and gather supplies. As they travel together they introduce themselves and grow closer. Arthur's mana core starts to hurt while traveling but hides it from Tesha. One day while teasing each other Tesha sees a marking on a tree and starts following it. After some time Tesha taps trees with markings and opens a portal to the elf kingdom asking Arthur to come. A group of guards welcomes the princess surprising Arthur. Soon a carriage with Tesha's parents and granddad comes. After hugging Tesha King Aldwin tries to ask Arthur but Tesha starts pulling Arthur. In the castle, Arthur declines the queen's offer for rest and decides to tell what happened first. After sitting on a table Arthur bows and introduces himself. He then starts telling how everything happened and when he got to how he met Tesha King is outraged hearing about the slave traders blaming humans. Arthur calmly said slave traders are a profession and not a race. Vision asks how he got away from traders. Arthur replies he was a mage and eliminated the traders to rescue Tesha. A guard doesn't believe him but he didn't care saying now that Tesha is home he wants to return to his as well. Alduin tells Arthur the portal to Sapin is open once every 7 years and 5 years were still left. He said he would gather guards to escort him and told him to rest till tomorrow. He sees Tesha upset with his return as he was her first friend. Arthur smiles and asks her to take him around the castle. Which roaming Arthur senses an attack and pulls Tesha to safety. He grabs the weapon and dashes to strike the attacker who was her grandpa. Virion tells the weapon is just a toy and is impressed with Arthur's reaction. He throws a wooden sword. Ask tells him to attack him. After the spar where Arthur was able to hurt him, Virion is happy and offers him to be his disciple. Arthur is reluctant as a human in the elf kingdom and his parents but Virion says if he could get in touch with his parents would consider it. Virion says that he knows he is having pain in his mana core and the reason is his beast will. Virion explains that mana beast A and above can pass on their will and inherit ability to its child or a person. Due to the strong beast's will which was too much for his body it was harming him and might kill him. The next morning Tesha asks if he was going to stay after all but Arthur replies he will decide after his trip with Virion. While coming down from stairs he hears Alduin and Virion arguing about letting a human stay with them. Virion just stops him and tells him to announce to everyone that Arthur would be under his guidance. On the destination, Virion calls for the old elf and introduces her as a deviant. Arthur asks if she can actually reach his parents. Rinia says she was a diviner and if she wanted there were very few who can hide anything from her. She asks Arthur to lean toward the water and imagine his parents. In the water, he sees them depressed with a sad atmosphere. He calls for them which surprises them. He tells them he is fine and still proud of what he has done. He is getting treated and will take time to return. He says he loves them and to take care till he comes back. Alice and Ray are happy to hear from Arthur hug them with tears in their eyes. Arthur strengthens his will as says he is ready.